Thanks.
Hey, is my audio all right?
You are good. And guys, we are now live. So, live and in Technicolor. At least I hope so. I better preview the stream before I get caught lying.
Hey, is my audio all right?
All right.
You are good.
Yep. Okay. So how has everybody been? I know, Trip, you've been busy making content?
Occasionally,
Yeah.
I'm on the X230, I core booted and did the, my classic keyboard switch.
Okay. Yeah, so one of these days I'm going to have to get a core booted ThinkPad. I think that'd be a great machine for me to have. I bought the Pinebook Pro a couple of weeks ago. Actually, I bought it like a month ago, but I just got it delivered during the hurricane a couple of weeks ago. It just sat in the box until I made that video, the unboxing video. And that's a strange little machine. It's only $200, so I can't complain about the quirks of it. But you know, it's got an ARM processor, and they only put 4 gigs of RAM in it. That's the real downside. I think that's going to be the bottleneck to that machine. Is 4 gigs of RAM is not much at all these days. Even opening up a web browser is going to suck all that up.
I mean, it's had to, isn't like 4 gigs though, like the minimum you, kind of need though?
Yeah, I mean to get Linux installed, yeah, but I mean, what are you going to run on it? There's too much stuff that sucks up a lot of RAM that some people might want to do on that machine. I mean, it's never going to be
web
like...
browser.
Yeah, go ahead.
A web browser will take up 1 gig just opening a web page, Firefox.
Right. I mean, I had people asking me weird questions. You know, when I showed the specs of that machine, I had people asking, yeah, but how well will Blender run on that machine? I was like, no, don't install Blender. Doing things like 3D modeling or doing even my video editor, Kdenlive. I mean, I can get Kdenlive to take 25 gigs of RAM, of my RAM. It'll put it to use.
So is it running Debian?
It is running Manjaro. That's what it shipped with, Manjaro ARM. And I'm just going to keep that because I like rolling distros anyway. But I'm sure if you wanted to put Debian on it, Raspbian or anything like that on it, any ARM ISO should work, I would think. And I left the Plasma desktop on it. I did install the awesome window manager on it, though. I haven't really configured it yet. Just kind of...
I just switched to Plasma from XFCE. I upgraded my whole systems from Debian 9 XFCE to Debian 10 KDE, and it's a great leap forward. Yeah, I'm glad I did that. All 4 machines. Took me a long time, but it's a lot smoother on it.
Yep.
It's got a nice audio slider widget. You can download it and it installs the slider directly on your taskbar. So you don't have to click the speaker icon and then the slider. You've got the slider right there on the bottom, which is really quite convenient.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't really played with either XFCE or Plasma that much. I mean, I occasionally will test out distros that's the desktop environment they ship with. But I've never lived in either one of them for any, long periods of time. So,
the other thing is double clicking. Some applications don't double click properly, like Dead Beef. You have to double click really hard 4 times just to get a selection. So I had to switch Dead Beef out for Clementine, and I have 2 or 3 others that I have to right click now instead of double click.
That's the one downside with Plasma, if you're used to using nothing but GTK apps, which is kind of what I use. When you switch to Plasma, things can be weird. The theming can be off on those GTK apps.
Yeah.
And then Plasma just has some strange defaults. I mean, depending on the distro, But if you're just doing like vanilla KDE plasma, they've got some strange defaults on that thing.
The other nice thing about it, I was running XFCE. When you click on, say, a calculator, some XFCs will center the calculator on your screen, and some won't. Mine didn't. It goes to the top left corner. With KDE, you can right-click on the title bar of the application, scroll down, say Windows Settings, and you can say launch in this position and this size. And then in the future, whenever you click on it, it goes right to the place you want it to go in. So that was a big boost for my XFCE system.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah, I lived in Plasma for 30 days one time about 3 years ago. Mainly because viewers of the channel trolled me into it. And it was okay. I can't really say I got used to Plasma. I kind of just made it look and feel like my window managers. So I really didn't. I didn't get
Is this why you need 32 gigs of RAM?
No, Plasma doesn't. GNOME does.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I tried GNOME one time, too, for 30 days because I got trolled into that. But, you know, GNOME had a memory leak there for a while that really caused it some memory issues. But even without the memory leak, it still needs about 1.1 gig of RAM just on a cold boot on my system, which blows my mind when I've got window managers that only need 200 megs. So.
With your window manager, I have this vision of you sitting all day with the terminal on the left-hand side and Vim or Emacs on the right side, and you spend most of your day in Vim in the terminal. Is that a misconception?
Depending on what I'm doing. Now, most of the time when I'm working at this computer here, I'm doing video stuff, obviously, for YouTube. So most of what I'm doing is OBS, Kdenlive, GIMP, Audacity, graphical programs. But me just playing around on my computer, yeah, I'm probably mostly playing around in the terminal and in Emacs these days.
That's good. So Emacs a lot better than Vim, or you still like both?
Well, they're different. Really, apples and oranges. Vim is really a text editor, and that's basically all it is. And it's a really good text editor. And I can use Vim really without configuring it. Like if I just install Vim and never go get my custom Vim RC from my GitLab or anything, I can just use Vim out of the box. Emacs, you have to configure it. You have to basically write your own text editor is really what the goal of that thing is. But I cheat, of course, and I just go and grab Doom Emacs, which is a customized version of Emacs already pre-built for me.
Oh, yeah.
But some of the stuff that Emacs does that you really can't do in Vim, org mode, which is org as a kind of a form of markdown. Well, it's, it's something similar. It's really great. Once you get used to writing things in org, you use it all the time. And Vim just doesn't have the ability to do anything with org mode. There's some plugins, some org mode plugins for Vim, but it's not like Emacs, where org mode is built into Emacs. There's no plugins you have to deal with. It's just part of Emacs. There's also a difference in that Emacs is a graphical program. It's actually a GUI program. A lot of people think it's a terminal, but when I pull up Emacs, that's actually a GUI program. That's why when you do org mode and the icons and the bullets and everything change and everything folds and you have variable heights of text. And when I open the web browser in Emacs, there's images and emojis. It's because that's all a graphical program. Where in something like Vim, if you can't have images and emojis or whatever, at least Vim doesn't take care of that. It would be dependent on whether your terminal could support that stuff or not. So
I don't know. I found out you can use the W3M image viewer and call it from the terminal. Mm-hmm. So pretty much in any sort of like bash program sort of thing, you can end up displaying a image actually on the terminal, but it has to be like running under X or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, you can use W3M images. You could also use the Python library called Uberzug to display images. And some of that, too, will be dependent on the terminal you run. Some terminals support that stuff better than others. I've had people tell me that Alacrity, which is the terminal that I use all the time, and I've made videos on it here recently, I've had people tell me Alacrity doesn't handle W3 images well, which I've never checked it out because I don't use W3M, that particular browser. And for images, if I want images in my terminal, I've been using Uberzug. Alacrity does that well. But people have told me it has problems with the W3M images.
Can you guys hear me now?
We heard you. Who was that?
Zach. Thank you.
Yeah, Zach. Yeah. It might be a little quiet, but just a bit. But I'm not previewing the YouTube streams, so what we hear is not what the people watching the stream would hear. Typically when we do these, I'll go back and watch a little bit of it, and all our levels are way different than each other, because it sounds different from what we're hearing in Jitsi. Somebody in the chat was saying, Owen in the chat, we need to migrate the world to Jitsi from Zoom. Yeah, I would love for that to happen. The problem why that isn't a possibility right now, and things like Zoom and Skype and Teams and all of that proprietary stuff, is they still work better than Jitsi, People that would use Jitsi are people like us here. We'll use it because it's free and open source software, and we want to support free and open source software. But people that don't care about that, they want to use the stuff that just works. So,
Nobody likes to set anything up anymore.
Yeah. And that's the problem with some of the free and open source solutions out there for a lot of things.
GIMP was one of them. They were saying, Michael was saying that GIMP doesn't compare to the other ones. That's the one program I use Wine for, is Paint Shop Pro 6 instead of GIMP, because it's just a lot smoother than GIMP.
Yeah, I used to use Paint Shop Pro years and years ago. I've never used Photoshop, so I really can't compare GIMP to Photoshop. All I've ever used really since switching to Linux was GIMP, and I mean it's fine for what I do, but I can understand others that if Adobe Photoshop is a better product, especially when it comes to work, you gotta use what you gotta use.
Have you tried Krita before?
I have not.
I found it a little bit easier to use than GIMP, at least in trying to figure stuff out for the first time.
Okay. Well, I might check that out then. You've been using it for a while?
Yeah.
Okay.
It seems to work for the most part. I don't know. It seems a little bit slow, but that might just be the X200 I've been using. So.
Well, yeah. I mean, depending on the size of the images you're trying to create too. I mean, I can get GIMP to be slow depending on how many tabs I have open in GIMP. Like if I've got several different large images open with a bunch of layers of stuff going on.
I'm really upset there isn't I haven't been able to find something that just works like MS Paint. No layers, just something really simple where you can just draw on the image.
No, I thought we had paint tools.
I mean, I'm sure there's something out there, but they all seem to be a little bit incomplete for...
Because I've reviewed Linux distros before where, I was looking at some of the applications that were installed, and some of them install paint programs. Some of them won't install the big stuff like GIMP and Inkscape to save on space, but I've seen... let me Google that. I know I've seen a few Linux paint programs that were similar.
I think I know there's a program
I'm sorry, we had a couple of people speaking. What was that?
Yes. I said that I know one that is called X Urnal PP, like journal with an X, and it's for notes, but it works very great if you need something that just has a brush and you can paint things on a piece of paper with a graphical tablet, for example.
Okay, some of the ones, when I just do a quick search, I don't know how close it is to MS Paint, but Penta. I don't know if you've ever used that. Did a
I was
quick
going to mention Tux Paint. I've done with that for my kids before.
Tux Paint is another one. Yeah, I've seen that one around.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of Tux Paint. It's kind of a little bit childish, though.
Yeah, as I said, I've done with it for my kids, so it's pretty childish.
There's one called My
It's
Paint.
simple.
And there's Color Paint with a K. That must have been the KDE guys because they love to misspell stuff. And I thought, I've seen a bunch of these painting kind of programs, but I've never used any of them, and I can't swear to you that they're clones of MS Paint. So,
I guess I tried PC Paint with like DOSBox, so
okay.
I'm pretty sure though that's not the best way to get around that.
Do any of them connect the dots? That's my level of painting and artwork.
I don't know. Most graphics applications though have the ability for you to put a couple of dots down and connect the lines for you. Don't they?
I don't know.
Yeah. I haven't used that many things though on Linux. These days I just stick strictly to GIMP for the most part. One of these days I need to learn Inkscape. People keep telling me try out Inkscape too. And of course eventually once I get into the 3D stuff we need to learn Blender, but that looks like that would take some effort, and I don't know if I have that much effort these days. And somebody was asking, do I have a matrix room and do I have an IRC channel? Yeah, so you can find hashtag DistroTube on freenode on the IRC network. And I do have a matrix room also called DistroTube. And I believe I have it connected to the IRC channel. So you're going to see posts from either one on both. I haven't actually logged in to either one in a while. Probably been 2-3 weeks since the last time I logged in. I don't hang out there just because I don't have time to chat, and I don't want that stuff up when I'm recording. Typically when I'm recording, I'm working for hours at a time here at this computer, and I can't have Matrix up because it's going to give me notifications, and every time somebody posts something or messages me, I just have to turn all that stuff off. I usually don't do chat. Got my coffee here. I am having a little difficult time speaking this morning. I do apologize. Like I said, those of you getting here late, I've been a little under the weather here the last couple of days. Probably just allergies, but sore throat and a little difficult to talk. I'm surprised nobody commented on the GNU shirt. I thought Trip Code for sure would.
Oh man, I just noticed.
No.
I was more distracted by the Matrix background.
Right. Yeah, I had to go to the store and get me some GNU gear. And I'm talking about the store from GNU.org.
I have a quest for an auto hide panel that has a delay in it, so that you can move your mouse to the edge of the screen and panel won't pop up right away.
Mm-hmm.
All the ones I've got don't have a delay. XFCE doesn't, KDE doesn't, Latte Dock has one, but it doesn't take effect, it's ignored.
Mm.
I wouldn't try GNOME. LXQT has one and it works, but it has side effects in KDE. It would work properly in its own desktop, but not outside of it. So I don't know why they don't have a delay feature in any of these panels.
Well, if the LXQt panel works for you, I mean, you could run all the KDE apps on LXQt.
Yeah, I tried it in KDE, but it has other side effects. So you can't right click and go into properties. That doesn't work.
Okay.
So the hiding works and the delay works, but there's side effects in KDE that you wouldn't have in LXQT desktop. Because
I know you can run KWin as the window manager in LXQt, and I would think that would give you all the settings and everything you need. I haven't tried it myself, but I know KWin can be your window manager in LXQt the same as in Plasma. Okay. And then you could use all your other KDE applications if you like Dolphin and Console and all that.
No, the reason I went to Plasma is my Crusader file manager only works in KDE. It doesn't work outside of KDE, and I that's my Vim. I live in that file manager, so that's why I went to KDE initially, because of the file manager.
Okay.
But so I'll just keep my eye open for something. Someone will turn up sometime.
Yeah, Red Robbo in the chat is saying the Tent2 panel has a delay in the config. Yeah, the Tent2 panel can be auto hiding, but it's a more minimal panel. Typically, people use Tent2 with things like OpenBox, just standalone window managers that don't have a panel. Like there's no menu built into Tent2 or anything like that. It's mainly just to show you what workspace you're on and what windows you have minimized, and that's about it.
Oh yeah, okay. So that's not going to help. Yeah. No. Okay.
Yeah, Jesse in the chat says this is a GNU/shirt. Yeah, and then somebody
How much did you pay for that?
I'm not sure. I doubt I paid, I don't know, $20 for it or whatever. Some of the money goes to help support the Free Software Foundation, which is the point of buying it. It probably costs them $6, $7 to make the shirt, and they sell it for, a bit more. But mainly it's to give them some money. It's just a little perk, Lost Millennial in the chat says that's a nice bison. A gnu is not a bison. I don't even know if they're related.
I've messed that up before.
Yeah.
I thought it was a ram.
A ram?
Yeah, a long time ago.
How do you confuse what's basically an ox with a sheep? And that's what a ram is, a sheep with some horns.
Definition says a large dark antelope with a long head, a beard and mane, and a sloping back.
It's an antelope.
That's what they're saying.
I mean, the one on the GNU logo looks like it has a goatee. Maybe I didn't really know what the thing was at first. I didn't know GNUs were a thing.
Yeah. Well, one of the things with some of the GNU stuff, they need to do a little bit better job of branding, because they always try to get this GNU thing in all their branding. And it's hard with the horns and the beard and everything. Like the Emacs logo with that stylized, weird looking E. Have you guys ever noticed that that's actually the horns of the GNU? That they're trying to force the GNU into the Emacs logo. Yeah, when Chaos in the chat. Yeah, GNU is more like an antelope. But Crazy Chandra says it's a wildebeest. I don't know what a wildebeest is.
Hmm? A GNU's not Unix, so.
Yeah, well, we could talk a lot about branding as far as reverse backronyms, and people got mad at me the other day, and I said it on purpose. I often troll the viewers of this channel when I mentioned about installing Notepad++ and Wine. So just install it in the Wine emulator. And I said it just like that, knowing I'm going to get about 50 comments. You idiot, Wine is not an emulator. It stands for Wine is not an emulator. Yeah, I know. But I wanted a whole bunch of angry comments in the chat. Because the more people that comment, the better I rise in the YouTube algorithms. So all you guys, you got played. You got played.
I didn't actually know that one, so thanks.
There's a few things that I often say wrong on camera on purpose, and I'm surprised so many people haven't figured it out. The wine one is one I often do. There's a couple of them, and every time it comes up, I'll always say the same thing. Of course, proprietary garbage. People love that one. Yeah, Peter says Derek likes to troll. Yeah, sometimes. Now, one of the things that people have been, I guess, complaining about in recent months, or really in the last couple of years, is should GIMP change their name? And then you've got this fork of GIMP called Glimpse that people are trying to push, but it's basically an exact clone of GIMP, just with a different name. And that gets into, yeah, is GIMP good branding? No. But one of the things I really hate are pointless forks. Duplication of effort. And if you fork a project and it's basically the exact same code base but a different name, should you be doing that? Not can you. I understand it's free software. You can do what you want. It just seems strange. Just too much duplication of effort, really, in our community.
Someone's trying to rewrite core boots in Rust.
Yeah.
It's a little bit weird.
Well, you know what, though? You're going to have a lot of things rewritten in Rust eventually. It wouldn't shock me if the Linux kernel eventually started using Rust.
New shells written in Rust.
Yeah, I mean that's the hot new language. Everybody, we're just going to replace C with Rust eventually.
Produces nice fast code.
Yeah.
A lot of the Rust programs that I like looking at Rust. When I say a program is Rust, I take a good look at it.
I tell you, the more I install Rust programs, I think the exact same thing. I'll give you a perfect example. Alacrity, the terminal I like, Rust program, love it.
Yep.
And there's some other really good Rust programs out there. My LS replacement, EXA, that's a Rust program. Isn't RipGrep also Rust? I don't know if you guys ever use RipGrep. It's just another grep, a better grep.
There's LMS, which is a fast copy. If you have a large folder to copy, it does a great job of copying. It uses all the processors in your system.
Yeah. Yeah, Mr. GFY in the chat says Cargo, which is the Rust package manager, is great, but the compile times suck. When I had to compile Alacrity on GNU Geeks, yeah, I was surprised how long it took to compile that terminal. It took a long time, like 45 minutes to compile Alacrity.
When I compiled NU, it didn't take that long, but it compiled about 500 modules to get 4 or 5 NU resultant modules out of it. Yeah. But the end result is good.
I think it might just be stubbornness, but I kind of like sticking with just C or C++. I seem to get the job done, and I already know how to use it. So I'm kind of a little bit afraid of Rust taking over, and I have to learn more stuff.
Yeah. Well, for somebody like me, you know, I'm not a programmer by trade. I just could use whatever I know, but some folks see where the industry's heading. You know, you got to learn, you know, what people are going to be hiring for.
Oh, which reminds me, just let me get it here. This is about a month. Story's about a month old. Job interviews. Python's fallen by 34%. Portable and internet has gone up by 61% in job interviews because of the this current situation.
Right.
Everybody wants to get online.
Yeah. So everybody wants to do Electron apps now.
Yeah.
I hate it.
Apps and WebView.
I hate it.
Those are the. There is one better one. WebView.
Yeah.
That one is. It doesn't actually put Chromium in, so it's that bit better. But even Electron is good enough for better than nothing. I'm gonna say.
I don't know. I just hate the idea that one day everything's just going to be a web container. You know, it's just everything.
Wow. Well, really, at the end, everything can be a web app because anyway, it's either its application on your computer or its application on your server. It doesn't matter if it does your job. That's why most of them go into, if they can, into web app format. Because then you can also leverage the whole server client infrastructure and what power. Servers many times have bigger power, and because of the easier to do distributed computing, you can use more power easier. And with that, most of us will have an ability to have thin clients or really weak computers without ever needing a lot of compute, because that's what server is for.
And somebody in the chat was asking me, do I have the library client installed on my machine? Yes, I have library, the desktop client installed on my machine. I'm assuming it's an Electron app. That's probably why he was asking. Yeah, I have Discord, which is also Electron. I have the Etcher USB writer. Great USB writing program. It's an Electron app too. So when I said I hate Electron apps, I mean, I do have some installed on the system. Would I prefer they not be Electron apps? Yeah.
I think VS Code's written in Electron, isn't it?
Yeah, so is Atom. Yeah, all those text editors. I don't know if Sublime is. I don't think Sublime is Electron.
Sublime isn't, but Atom and VS Code are, which also brings us to another great feature of VS Code. You can run it on a server if you want, and you can then have users just connect into it through the browser, which is double-edged sword again, but with if you have the infrastructure and you might need the data to be on a secure location and people just connecting into it, it makes a lot of sense to have a web-based browser, a web-based text editor like. Right. And since VS Code is really powerful, that's a no-brainer for many companies which need such capability.
Just do everything in Google Docs.
Well, Google Docs are on internet, which is a problem.
Yeah.
A lot of people want to self-host this stuff because maybe the regulation required, for example, the regulation in medical industry are quite stringent most of the time, so those need a lot of protocol to follow.
And this is one thing when we talk about the web apps. Think about web office stuff. How many people would prefer to use Google Docs or Office 365 rather than a desktop application? I don't think most people would.
I would.
You would rather use the cloud service rather than a desktop.
Yeah, it really doesn't matter to me if it is in a browser, if it is in a client, because if it does my job, then that's it. And the problem is features which it brings, and if it's in feature parity, then it really doesn't matter. Of course, I would like to self-host it then,
Yeah,
but
you want
for
your
LibreOffice, I already can do that
yeah.
if I really wanted to.
Well, that's getting to. We need more and more people to be aware of things like decentralization. You know, unfortunately, that's one thing. More and more people now know what open source is. You know, that's becoming more of a commonplace term. You know, even normal people know what open source is. But when we talk about decentralized services and federated networks and things like that, most people still have no idea about that, and that confuses normal people. When you tell people about Mastodon, in, you know, as far as an alternative to Twitter, and you tell them that there's 1,000 different instances of Mastodon and they could create their own, you know, most normal people are confused about that. That makes no sense to them. That's one thing. I think I need to spend more time on the YouTube channel really trying to talk to people about, because I really think that is the future. Like, if you're really concerned about privacy on the internet and security on the internet, is the more and more we get away from everything being centralized, the better off we are.
Well, internet by itself is centralized, and even if we look at let's say how Twitter works, it isn't all in one server. So no matter what happens, even if the server in America even if America is all cut off from Europe, I will still have Twitter. I might not have connections from the American side of the pond, but I will still have European Twitter because, well, nodes are still here. I will still be able to connect to Twitter and read what every European writes. It's just that what Americans write I won't see, because everything is connected via everything is in nodes. Nothing nowadays that is serious in wanting to do stuff is a monolith of a single server and that's it, because you cannot handle the connections, and compute is horrible. Plus storage is, well, what can you do on one server? So what they do, they actually have hundreds or even thousands of servers, I don't know, nodes around the world where you connect to the one you have best bandwidth, best latency to.
Yes, but it's not the number of the servers, it's the fact that one person runs all those servers.
Well, at the end of it, really, it won't matter if it's one person or 1,000 persons who run the servers, because behind it all is really, it will be more scary for people to lose the internet itself than the service, the one person deciding they're gonna turn off the service. It's more scary, the proposition of internet going down, because reality, if they decide they can turn off internet for connection between America and Europe, by like few people can decide that.
Well, you know, if Mark Zuckerberg wanted to shut off the internet today, he could. I mean,
he probably couldn't, because there are far more powerful people behind the connections between Europe and because if nothing else, the Microsoft holds quite a few, so they could just decide we're going to allow internet through those.
Yeah, Microsoft, the other $1 trillion company.
Yeah,
and Apple too. Has Amazon reached $1 trillion yet? Or were they the first? I can't remember. Anyway, Amazon.
I believe the first one was Microsoft, but they quite soon fallen behind again, below $1 trillion. Then I believe it was Apple.
Yeah, one of them has crossed
Apple, Amazon, and Microsoft that are.
Yeah. And one of them has crossed $2 trillion. I think that's Amazon.
Yeah, Apple.
They're already worth $2 trillion. That's crazy.
That would be Apple.
Is it Apple?
As far as I remember.
All those $1,200 iPhones they sell.
Yeah. And a lot of it came from the fact that when they announced the ARM, that caused ripples in the industry.
Yeah.
And that was quite good.
And somebody in the chat was asking me about Cirx, the search engine. I played around with it a little bit for something you want to host yourself. One I've been playing around with for a year or two is Yacy, Y-A-C-Y. Might want to check that one out if you haven't checked it out. You can find it in the Arch repositories too, or maybe it's in the AUR. But it's just a local host, basically, search engine, and it's let me see if I can find it. I'll post a link to it. Well, I'll post a link to their website for everybody. I know not everybody runs Arch, but in the YouTube chat I'll post a link to the website for Yacy. It's been around for years. So it's a peer-to-peer search engine that you install this program and you just connect to it in your web browser locally on your machine. Of course, the point of that is not to be tracked. If you're concerned about Google knowing everything you do.
Well,
which I do sometimes use Google. I mean, sometimes I use DuckDuckGo, but sometimes I'll want to see what the Google search result is specifically for something, especially if you talk about search engine rankings or SEO or whatever. And
DistroTube, out of all the videos you put out over time, they probably have enough data on you just from that.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to get at is, Google, unfortunately, has mined me quite a bit. But it is scary when you do use Google, because sometimes I'll do a search for something in YouTube, and then I'll open up the Google search engine and I start typing, and it'll show me the same results for like the search term I did in YouTube. It's like, okay, there's no doubt you're tracking me now. It's like it predicts what I'm going to search for because I searched for it on one of their other services.
I tricked YouTube recently because I logged out of YouTube on my phone, and I actually uninstalled the app, and I only used it in Firefox on the phone. And now my mobile YouTube thinks that I like all the music and trains. So that's funny. It only shows me trains now.
Yeah, somebody in the chat, we have multiple people talking about DuckDuckGo. Yeah, it's fine. I use DuckDuckGo a lot too. DuckDuckGo is my home page when I open up Qt browser. Sometimes I do stuff in Qt browser. But yeah,
there is a nice thing in Firefox, because you can add multiple search engines and only use the prefix. So G, for example, for Google, and I use X for search. This is very nice when you need to use multiple search engines, so you can find whatever you need.
And you can do that in Qt browser too. If you have all these search engines as quick marks, which I do, like I'll just type O to open, the Vim bindings, and then like I have a Google book quick marked as Goog, G-O-O-G. So I'll type O and then G-O-O-G and then space. And then I'll type a search term, and Qt browser will just give me the search results in Google without actually having to go to google.com and then type the search that I'm looking for. And that's what I do for everything. YouTube, Wikipedia, anything that has a search field. I just have a quick mark for it. So I just type the abbreviation I set for it and then the search term, and boom, you go there. Yeah, DuckDuckGo does use Google and Bing for its search results. Yeah, I believe so. Most search engines, even the privacy-focused ones, they know Google's search engine typically gives the most relevant results, so they will use Google, but they'll put some kind of barriers between Google and you, the user. So yeah. Check out Firefox.
Cirx uses DuckDuckGo too.
Yeah. Somebody was asking about checking out for the Firefox multi-account containers. I have not played with the Firefox containers. I know Firefox was putting Facebook in a container there for a while. I haven't played with that because I don't have a Facebook account. But I think those are nice ideas. And if you're really concerned about this kind of stuff, you could always just throw these programs, your web browser or whatever, in FireGel. FireGel is kind of a container. You can open up your browser and do whatever you want in, and hopefully it's sandbox, it's containerized in such a way, it really can't do anything to your machine beyond what you're doing in the browser. What do I think of using proprietary software, say a video game, under a VM? Well, whether you use proprietary software or not, that's up to you. I don't really care. Playing a video game under a VM is going to be tough, regardless whether it's proprietary or not, because of the GPU. Yeah.
Graphics power doesn't really go very well to VM unless you have either a Linux VM. So then, what's the difference between running it on your system or in a VM? And if you have Windows, then you must use something like what it's called GPU pass-through, PCI Express pass-through, which is hit and miss depending on your way of virtualizing and what graphics card you have, because AMD has a ton of problems with it, and NVIDIA has its fun as well. It's a fun tick to get working.
Yeah.
I actually tried it once and I really hated it because AMD has a really fun bug. Once you shut down the VM, for some reason it doesn't release the GPU, and if you want to reboot that VM, then you must first reboot the whole system.
Yeah.
Which then negates the whole point of using a VM again.
Right. And someone in the chat was asking, hey, a GPU pass-through video one day would be nice. Yeah, but I've never done it. I wouldn't mind doing it, but I'm personally, I don't see the point. If you need to run Windows-only games, don't do it in a VM. Just install Windows on another partition. Just dual boot. I mean, it's going to be so much better performance running it natively inside Windows instead of trying to do it in a virtual machine.
Well, Wendell from Level 1 Text would disagree.
Really?
Yeah,
he's gaming in a VM?
He's a pioneer in
GPU
pass-through on YouTube. He's the guy you want to ask if it's for GPU pass-through.
Speaking of virtual machines and VirtualBox, I thought they were going to change it so you didn't have to have guest editions to get your window full screen. But it seems you still do, don't you?
Guest editions are normally built into the kernel nowadays, but there are still some distros that don't have it. Don't have its kernels in the kernel. The guest editions. Guest editions are practically the drivers for connect between the VM and the host of the VM. And if you want a full screen and change the whole resolution, all that, you need guest editions. Same, you need guest editions for copying and some other stuff that you can do with VirtualBox. But for most of the features, you need guest editions. And as I said, many distributions like Ubuntu, Arch, they already have them installed set them up as a module in a kernel, but some still don't add them in, or they're just lower version than they are normal. So you might need to update them yourself.
Yeah. I abandoned VirtualBox because of guest editions on it.
I was about to say you could just use a QEMU.
Really, every VM host application has guest editions. Even KVM QEMU has guest agent. It's called but because most distributions have that all in the kernel, you won't see a difference. But you will see difference if you run Windows in a VM, where none of that actually works.
Well,
again, you need
specifically for Murray. He was asking about the screen resolution. KVM usually handles that pretty well, better
Yeah,
than
but
VirtualBox. Yeah,
again, because the kernel has guest agent modules
Right.
already installed. If it wouldn't, then it will be the same issue as with VirtualBox and no guest additions.
right. Yeah, KVM is
I'm-
part of the kernel. I mean, doesn't the K stand for kernel?
Yeah.
Right. So,
Yeah, kernel virtual machine.
right.
So I
One
went
of
to
One of the things I was wondering is, have any of you tried like I think it's like Remix OS or the or like one of the Android x86 ones in a virtual machine? So I noticed a lot of the like some app things like Let Go. For example, I use that occasionally to buy old electronics or even sell computers. It's a lot easier to just use it through a phone. But
Yeah.
I don't really like using a phone, so hoping
Well, those can work, but what I would suggest is trying Nbox. It's basically virtualizing Android on your system, basically like Wine for your for Android. Basically, I believe it's developed by someone and then sponsored by Canonical, if I'm correct. So some of you will hate it.
Now,
But
I
yeah.
have installed a couple of free and open source Android alternatives in virtual machines before, and connected to the Play Store and was able to install some apps. That was in a VM. I didn't do much with it, but there are several Android alternatives out there that are actually free software.
I thought of giving Replicant a shot, but I got shipped the wrong device. It was a slightly different revision, and I couldn't install that version. But a lot of those devices are kind of a little bit outdated. I think the fastest one is either like the Note 2 or the S3 for replicant support. I might be wrong. I haven't looked at the project in a while.
Yeah.
anyway, my VirtualBox didn't work, so I went to Plan B. I wanted to get Manjaro, Arco Linux, and Ubuntu 2004 available for testing. So I partitioned a drive in 3 and installed them. But only Manjaro, you could only boot to Manjaro. The other two weren't recognized. I think they installed Grub in the partition and not on the the member.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
so-
Depends on how you make what kind of VM you made. If you made an UEFI based VM, that should work. But on legacy based VMs, multi-boot was always a bit of an iffy thing. And if people say they want to multi-boot and they specifically use legacy boot, I just say don't and reinstall everything and use UEFI. It will work 100 times better. And
well, with the
problems
legacy,
like Windows removing grub aren't anymore a problem because Windows can't do that anymore.
with the legacy boot, it sometimes matters what order you install them. Because I know Manjaro is picky. I can't remember if you need to install it first or if you need to install it last.
Manjaro is picky, like really picky, because they actually have a bit of a different thing for grub, and even if you detect it on some other grub, it will just basically say, nope, I'm not going to work.
Yeah, somebody also said Windows is like that.
Manjaro needs to be the last to install if you're using legacy, because it also depends on which grub you're going to boot into, even if you use UEFI, because the first thing that was installed doesn't actually have knowledge of all the things that were after. So you need to boot into it, update the grub, and then you will see the other ones. So it is quite a bit of work to actually get things running if you do not know what you're doing.
Well, it's kind of similar, like if you're going to dual boot Windows and Linux, you always need to install Windows first and Linux second. Otherwise, Windows is going to booger up the bootloader for you.
I got it running Linux, Windows, Linux, no matter how.
With legacy,
I do use
or UEFI.
I do use UEFI, so that's the reason why I can do that. But on legacy,
well, you're cheating. You're letting System D do all the work, right?
No, I'm letting grub and actual firmware on my computer do the work because it's there. So why not?
And why are we all still using grub? Why aren't we using systemd boot?
Because systemd boot can only do one thing, and if you only have one distribution on your system, it really doesn't matter.
You see, I just trolled the chat. They're about to flame me in the chat. I was setting them up.
If you use,
I didn't even know systemd boot was a thing. That sounds horrible.
No, it's not actually not horrible. It just isn't grub. That's the problem. If you have a single distribution on your system, it is actually just completely the same as if you would use grub. It doesn't go in your way, and that's it.
Why would
but what if you have like multiple distributions?
Then you need grub.
Yeah, then you need to have systemd on all those distributions. That's the point. Everything should be running systemd.
It won't help if you have systemd because it will just not work because it won't show up in the menu. We don't have a menu.
Well, they're going to get that working eventually.
We should be running systemd containers as well, right?
Yeah. And
no, you should be running Docker containers and LXD containers, sponsored by Canonical. Well,
I've replaced all my cron jobs with systemd timers now.
On the point of Canonical, I actually got to say something. I actually, Ubuntu Mate, the distribution Ubuntu Mate.
Yeah.
I use it nowadays. It's a great distribution.
Yep.
Developed by Martin Wimpress, director of Ubuntu Desktop in Canonical. And I joined the team that develops Ubuntu Mate.
Nice. You packaging stuff for them, or what are you doing?
I'm doing packaging and automation.
Cool.
And what we'll do in future, I don't know.
No, you
after
just
I finish that.
You packaging dev packs for them, or are you working on the snaps?
Yeah, I'm packaging dev packages.
Okay.
And currently I'm doing automation of building of those packages, so we get clean files of development version of Mate Desktop like every day or so. So the QA team can check them out and tell us if there are any bugs. So then Mate Desktop, the upstream developers can fix it, or if need be, developers of Ubuntu Mate can fix it.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Now, one of these days, I need to join a community like that. Of course, it's got to be Arch, all right? Triple join the Gentoo community.
I am getting a little bit sick of apt. It always seems to create a little bit of a mess over time between like the testing packages and the stable release ones.
Well, that's because you're trying to do something that it really wasn't made to do.
If you're on Debian, you should be running Debian stable.
Yeah, you should be running a single single.
But then I have that one package that isn't in Debian stable.
Host it on your own repository. That's the main thing, because that will keep it working normally. I actually host my own repository for a single package. That package is Alacrity, because you cannot get it in Ubuntu repositories, and I build it myself. About every day a new build comes out to my repository. So I have automatic building on my server, and it just, when the changes to GitHub repository, just updates and just pushes me a new version.
Now, Trip, why couldn't you just do Debian unstable? Just roll. Is that not an option?
Don't go crazy.
I mean, I've used Debian testing.
Well, he laughed.
It didn't break for quite a while. Debian SID, or like the unstable branch, it just broke very quickly.
Yeah.
Like within the period of months. So
I've had similar situations with Debian unstable, and people always tell me I'm wrong when I say this, but I found Debian unstable to be more unstable than Arch. I got
that was
it's
the
rare for me to
impression I
break
got
Arch,
from
but I can break Debian unstable.
Well, many people can break anything. Just look at Rocca. He can
Well-
break basically. He could break the most stable distribution. He could break it.
Yeah, but he's hopping all the time, and you know he's
No,
playing around a lot.
I believe he has been on Pop OS for a year now.
Yeah.
So he has done the stop of the hopping because, well, he wanted a stable system that worked whenever he sat behind it.
Yeah. Well, that is the most important thing.
Yeah.
Kind of why I don't hop on this machine, my production machine, anymore, because I got tired of. I'd sit down and go to record and stuff wasn't working. And then you spend a couple hours trying to fix stuff.
Yeah.
By the time you fix the stuff, you're out of time. It's like, dang, that was the only block of time I had. And I spent that, trying to fix bugs on my machine.
Well, nowadays you have like 8 hours of block of time for VDOS, so you shouldn't have that problem anymore.
Well, it's still Arch based though, so sometimes
it takes a bit more.
I've wasted a fair bit of time trying to recover files. Because I had a bug in when I was like writing my installation script. I accidentally earlier I didn't have a warning. So on the menu, if you select dev/SDA, it'll try to install it on your pre-existing system, and it's kind of embarrassing how many times I've made that mistake. I put like a warning thing in there, and I still made the mistake.
Well,
a lot of people do not use installation scripts if you really do not watch everything.
Yeah, that's tough because if you use an automated script, it's very easy for it to pick the wrong drive or the wrong partition.
Yeah.
So that's. I mean, I'm sure you could script it in such a way it could run some kind of check, or maybe you
could ask at the start of it. Just ask what the user wants.
Put a confirmation. Put a confirmation in it. So, hey, we're about to write to this disk. Is this the one?
I have a confirmation.
But you clicked yes anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, that's a you problem. No, that's a you problem.
If it's dev/SDA, I need to have it give a, I don't know, maybe I'll just make that not an option. It might make more sense. Or I ask you 3 times or something. Some unusual.
I recently started to use other names instead of SDA, SDBA, etc. So you can use like dev by UUID or
that's an option.
Something, and it gives you the full name of the drive, like Samsung something instead of SDA. It's all symlinks, but it's a bit more secure, I think.
Well, it's less likely that you'll DD the wrong drive.
Whatever you want. Just if you do UIDs, those tend to not change, and it's a bit better. That's what actually ArchGen FSTab uses, and I believe, and some other, and even Gen2 recommends using UIDs, but you can also use labels, which you actually have to make yourself, or use anything you really want. It's quite nice for whoever you want. Actually, since I have an NVMe drive, my partition for the boot drive for this is /dev/NVMe 0N1P1.
Yeah, I have NVMe drives. I have solid state, just standard SSDs, HDD. And it's weird the naming conventions they come up with, but the NVMe one is confusing.
How much faster is it booting from NVMe than from an SATA SSD? Is it double?
It's fast. It's faster, but I wouldn't say it's double because I personally do not actually use that because of booting. That to me that's a non-issue anyway. I use it because I have program files on it, and those tend to get faster on NVMe quite a lot because it doesn't have to do the loading from the because the non-random or random loading, non-sequential loading of files is quite a bit faster, since on a SATA hard drive you don't have to seek everything, spin up and all that, and that's just kind of bad and for loading times and all that.
Yeah, it's good for streaming too, isn't it? Good for video streaming.
If you're hosting files and streaming them to, let's say, a TV, yeah, it will be faster. But if it's just like right now, like you're watching YouTube, it won't really affect anything, since it just goes through your connection to a screen.
You're not actually writing to the disk. You're not putting all that data.
Or you shouldn't be writing to a disk.
I mean, you could, I guess, but it would take a monster machine to.
It would be really stupid to do.
I upgraded my system when I converted. I had some 120 gig Samsung SSDs from about 2014. I upgraded to 500 gig Crucials. And I did a comparison. There's a website you can go to. The sequential read now on the new one is 560. On the old one is 520, so it's comparable. But the write speeds was 320 on the old one, and it's 510 on the new one. So the write speed is about half on it. And you notice
write speed got up quite a lot on SSDs for the time.
You notice the difference.
Yeah, you can notice the difference.
It depends on what you're doing. In most of what you're doing, you won't notice the difference. But if you when I notice it, if I have to copy over a very large directory, like if I'm doing an rsync of like 100 gigs of something, then you can tell.
That will be so fast.
Right.
Or if you have if you have the non-sequential reads, that will get a boost, because non-sequential reads are all over the drive, and because of how SSDs are made, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, I gave the SSD to set up a computer for an elderly woman, and she uses it for Facebook, her emails, her photos, and genealogy site, all read kind of stuff, and you don't notice any delay. She's doing things that she needs on it. As long as she's not writing large amounts of data, it's great for that kind of thing. Yeah.
The only thing that worries me about my NVMe is because they're still kind of new. I wonder about longevity.
NVMe drives are don't break so fast, because SSDs have been out for quite a long time, and NVMe is just basically just a connection type they use. It's a connection protocol, really. So it's basically storage over PCIe, where SATA is storage over SATA. Really, it's serial attached. It's serial instead of parallel, like with PATA. But that's why NVMe is over PCIe. So that's the difference, really. And SSDs have been around for quite a while. If nothing else, how long are USBs around? They use the similar technology. Same with SD cards. In laptops, you have mSATA drives for a long time. And for how long the SATA-based SSDs for laptops and computers are around? Years and years and years. So they just changed the connector and the protocol surrounding it, so it's faster now.
I don't know. I have a lot of systems that use SATA 2, and with SATA 2, I think it maxes out at like 300 megabytes per second.
3 gigabits per second. That would be at 300 megabytes per second. Yeah.
So, like, generally, I just buy the drive. I'll buy the cheapest drive that maxes out SATA 2. That's somewhat reputable. Basically,
every hard drive ever, because hard drives go as fast as 100 megabytes per second max. Maybe if you have the highest speed ones, 150. But even then, you won't see that a lot of the time, because that would mean you have sequential reads and writes, and then again, writes are slower, reads are faster. You get about 150 theoretical speed on the
No, I get
They're done
solid
RPM.
state drives.
Yeah, solid state drives. Most of them can do more than 300 nowadays. Even the SATA ones.
Yeah, even the cheap ones.
Yeah.
I think I get like the PNY S900 brand ones or something like that. They
PNY
barely.
is quite a reputable brand, and they should work quite well.
Yeah. So I haven't had one of these patron chats in about 6 weeks due to the hurricane that basically ruined the last week of August for me. And then there is a storm coming up in a couple of days. Another one. It's not going to be as bad as this last one, but I did want to mention that here on camera. Yes, they're not exactly sure where it's going to hit, but by about Tuesday, there will be another storm. They're thinking it's going to be like a Category 2 hurricane, which is, not nearly as strong as that last one was. So we'll see how that goes for me, but hopefully I won't lose power again. Since the last time we did a patrons chat, some of the stuff I did on the channel, well, it's been that long ago, but Good New Geeks took a look at that particular distribution. That is a strange distribution, but a fun one to play with. I wish I had hardware that it would run on properly, but it's a... Okay.
Hey, that noise scared me for a second.
Is that you, Trip, or who is that?
No, it isn't. Once it isn't me.
That was strange.
ThinkPad battery's about to die noise.
Yeah, that was mine.
Yep, and after going a few days without power and getting back into the YouTube channel, the first video back I had to make was that Arch installation guide, because the last one I made was a little over a year ago, and the Arch installation has changed, and that video gets so many views, the one I did last year. I get messages every day, hey, I followed your guide, it doesn't work. And the reason it doesn't work is when they do the packstrap command, and you just do packstrap base, which is all you had to do back then. You don't actually install the kernel during the packstrap.
Yeah, you need to install the kernel,
right.
so the Linux.
So I'm so glad I got that new video up, and I actually pinned a comment on the old video. Hey, go watch the new video and quit messaging me. So I've gotten.
Then you did another great video.
Yeah, well, yeah, they're going to change it here in another month or so, and then I'll have to. Yeah.
After that, you did another great video. That was very, very popular with the people.
Yeah, the Arch guys just keep trolling me. Every time I put out a new video, they change the install process.
Yeah.
I think I made one Debian installation video a long time ago for the net installation setup, but nothing's really changed.
No. Now, the Debian website, I've always found a little weird. You mentioned the net installation. Do they still hide all their ISOs? Like when I go look for the mini ISO, I can't find it.
Yeah, they still hide them. And
another thing is the net installation ISO for the non-free firmware. I don't know if it fixed this, but it used to not. It would still install the actual normal Debian installation. Yeah, but it would just have the non-free firmware on the installation process. So you still have to go back in there and.
Well, you can tell Debian really wants you to just use the one standard ISO. They hide all the other ones from you.
Yeah, even that one they hide. So, yeah.
You'll be glad to know that Antergo's installation issues tradition lives on in Endeavour.
Really?
I tried the net install, and you go partway through and you get to the screen where you enter your name and host name and passwords, just disappears. They start typing something in, it just disappears. Gone. Probably if you use the default install that's not net, it works. But I couldn't get that one to work. I only wanted it to test some app images I got, but so I didn't pursue it anyway.
Yeah, I imagine it's just hard to do a complete net install on a rolling release like Arch.
Well, Arch is a net installer. I believe Arco can do a net install. Same with
Yeah, but Arch is net.
Manjaro.
Arch net install is just the base, the pack strap. I mean, it's hardly
Yeah.
anything. Trying to put everything on top of it is the hard part.
Well, I believe Arco can do a net install, but you must build the ISO yourself. Same with Manjaro, because it's basically a switch in Calamaris during the build of an ISO.
So you think
And I
maybe it
believe
has something to do with the?
Arco does the build. I believe does the net install for some stuff as well. So if you want to install certain packages, you do them via the net, directly from the Arch repositories instead of them being saved on your ISO.
Yeah. Well, it probably has more to do with the installer itself, maybe than
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, it's the
Antergos had that
installer.
Cinchi installer. I don't know. Endeavor's not using that. I hope. Or,
I don't
I hope.
remember what it's using.
yeah.
It's all about what installer is and how it works.
Mhm.
Most of the bugs come from the installer itself, not the installation type
Yeah.
it's doing.
And some of it is when you're trying to support so many desktop environments and window managers. This was the problem with Antergos. Is, you know, if you were installing GNOME or KDE, it tended to work. But if you were installing OpenBox or i3, you know, some of the things that very few people probably are installing, those always broke during the installation. Probably not a lot of people were reporting that either.
Another problem is that they actually believe they still have that. They basically have one installer for everything,
Right. Mm-hmm.
one ISO for everything. On the other hand, they look at the Arco guys. They do for each thing they do their own ISO or their own ISO script, so you can build your own ISO. That's because it's less problems.
For months and months and months, I tried to get Antergos to install with ZFS on it. After months, I finally got it, succeeded once, and I got it. I'm sitting there proud. I've got an Arch on top of ZFS. And it lasted for 2 days. They did an update to the kernel, reboot. You get a black screen. It says ZFS has crashed. You're on your own.
If you want ZFS, go Ubuntu.
Or FreeBSD.
Yeah, now you go Ubuntu, yes.
If you want ZFS on root, you go Ubuntu. It works great.
Yep.
DistroTube. On one of your live streams, you said you couldn't do video editing on any of the BSDs.
Well, I don't know about video editing, but just the whole thing. Yeah, everything I do, it would be tough.
I mean,
I remember how it was for you when you did the Ghost BSD thing.
Yeah, I mean, I never had working audio in Ghost BSD. I never even got to the video part. I never had a working microphone in it for 4 days.
I spent half the day trying to get it to recognize an ext4 device, and it failed.
I don't know. I feel like I haven't tried it out, but it seems like FreeBSD is probably the closest to just working out of the box for everything.
Well, it's more geared toward desktop use than the others. Yeah, I would never try to use OpenBSD or NetBSD on a production machine that I actually had to do video work on.
I wouldn't try any BSD on production machine because they have fallen behind in many aspects besides security.
Right. I mean, it would be strange to buy a really big workstation with an expensive NVIDIA graphics card and then try to run BSD on it. That would be because it's not going to give you the performance. Like, you've invested all that money and then you're going to run an operating system that probably doesn't even have a proper NVIDIA driver that would power that card properly.
Yeah. I don't know. I can I was thinking about making a video and editing on I was going to use like pretty much like NetBSD or something really obscure, just as long as I have FFmpeg working.
If you're going to do some simple stuff, you just recording your screen like with Simple Screen Recorder, you'll probably be fine with that.
I mean,
Yeah, but if you do anything with more complex stuff,
Streaming with OBS. Do a live stream in OBS, see how that works.
or using Kden Live
Right.
with Melt, that will just
yeah.
melt your system
Blender.
because it
Right.
won't work.
okay, so live stream with OBS.
Yeah, try that. Because that'd be
Okay.
interesting to see if you can get that working, a good live stream using NetBSD. I'm not saying you couldn't.
Oh
you
god,
might could.
NetBSD?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man.
FreeBSD would be
I
too easy. NetBSD is the one you need to do.
Sorry.
Or if you could get it running with OpenBSD, you could try that one. More people probably run OpenBSD on a desktop than NetBSD. Yeah. I'm not saying you have to do it, Tripcode. I was just putting the challenge out there.
Might be not quite sure what the purpose would be. The educational experience.
Just to see if it's done, so people will quit asking me to do it. I can point them to you.
Okay. God.
Well, and while we're on the subject of video editors and stuff like that, the whole week I've been using Premiere Pro at school for editing videos, and I gotta say, when comparing Kden Live and Premiere Pro, there is no challenge.
Yeah.
Premiere Pro is hundreds times better to use. The feeling of it, everything is so much better.
Well, I don't doubt that. Kden Live is clunky. It really is.
Kden Live is bad. Even I also used to use DaVinci Resolve. Even that is compared to Premiere Pro clunky and sad.
I don't know. So many big YouTubers, like ones with millions of subscribers, swear by DaVinci, but on Linux,
on Linux, that thing is unusable.
It is.
When I used DaVinci Resolve, I actually specifically for video editing rebooted into Windows just to edit the video and render it. Then I went to Linux and uploaded it to YouTube.
Yeah. The requirement for OBS makes this a lot harder because they technically do have a OBS Studio package, but I have to find some card. Like I actually have to make the hardware for those. OBS requires like OpenGL like 3.0 support or something like that.
Yeah.
So
I do know it's packaged for FreeBSD OBS.
Yeah, they have a lot of stuff under package source, so I'm not quite sure if
it would just be tough. And the more complex you get with video editing, the more creative you get, the more walls you're going to run into on a operating system like BSD, because it just wasn't built for that.
I was imagining though I would just use I would just copy my little ncurses video editor thing, and then that'd probably work.
If you just use this FFmpeg, you could even stream from FFmpeg if you really wanted to. But
could.
Then any compositing you can do in OBS, that's not a thing.
Yeah, I think you could stream from Simple Screen Recorder too. I've never tried it.
Actually, at school we do the multimedia stuff. We actually have a server that's basically all it does is streaming, because we stream to multiple services and multiple locations really, and you just plug in a cable into the boxes. What is it called? Basically, capture card from Blackmagic Design, and you just basically will then take that video and just using FFmpeg stream it to whatever number of locations we need to stream. That is because everything is done before that with other things like hardware, compositing, all that, because we have like semi-professional setup. We have the board for mixing and all that.
Yeah. Well, if you have some of those Blackmagic capture cards, that's definitely a professional setup, because I've priced some of those things thinking about buying
those
them.
Things
are expensive.
Those things are really, really good.
Yeah, if you've got $600 or $800 or whatever those things cost.
Well, actually, about expensive hardware, I'm actually thinking of buying myself something quite expensive, and I'm still on the fence of doing it. But I might buy myself a microphone, a proper microphone.
No.
but I won't go for the things you have that go into your face. I'll probably buy myself one of those lavalier microphones and just put it on here.
Well,
but that's
if you're not
quite
sitting,
a costly thing.
Yeah, if you're not sitting at a desk, if you're standing up for like a presentation or something, you could get a shotgun mic that doesn't need to be anywhere close to you. It can be a few feet from you, and it'd pick up the whole room. You know, so, I mean, there's other options.
Great thing with lavalier mics, I can even stand up and walk around if I'm doing a voiceover.
Yeah.
It really won't matter because I'll be talking to the microphone here, and because it's me, I probably buy something like Sennheiser.
Yeah.
So I'll drop a pretty penny, but those are really great.
So, wait, are those like wireless or?
Yeah, wireless. You have the receiver and a transmitter and the two packs, and just plug them in, and that's it.
Recently, I spent a little bit of time trying to move my all my video recording stuff to being essentially recorded by this microphone and that webcam, and then using the B-roll from my camera. But I couldn't get FFmpeg to actually sync up with the Yeti mic, and it turned out to be like a bunch of there's just some Pavu control fixes, but it ended up being kind of a headache.
Well, I always do audio syncing in post, so that won't matter to me. I'll probably even record audio separately from video because that's just the best way to do it.
What are you recording with when you record your videos, Trip? You doing it in OBS?
I take my camera, I film what I'm building, and then I use FFmpeg to do the screen recording. And then I run.
I normally use OBS because I want to do some compositing in the real time, like for example, have two screens or have a name of the video in the bottom, stuff like that.
Yeah. If you use OBS, you can delay the audio so it syncs with the video. There's options for that. So.
Well, I personally got used to doing the audio syncing because that's how most professional staff do it. So, and we do it as well.
Yeah, but it'll be more of a problem with live.
Learn that. Yeah, with live that's a problem.
He does. I know Trip does a lot of his stuff live.
With live, I really do not think it will matter that much.
Wait,
they complain.
Do I do a lot of stuff live?
Yeah, you do a lot of live streams. I've seen you live streaming a few times. You haven't done anything lately because I haven't got the notifications, unless the notifications are broken.
Last time it didn't go so well. I was up for too long and decided I wanted to install like a GNU/herd on something.
Oh yeah, I saw that 9-hour live stream. Yeah, he was streaming for like 9 hours or something.
My friend, you made a grave mistake.
Yeah.
Well, what I'm wondering though now is if it's possible to do the FFmpeg video editor on GNU/herd.
Don't use herd. Don't use herd. It's a kernel that works kinda if you have lucky. It's like running Debian seed on a system that is basically cobbled together from.
What do you think he's more likely to get working? Do you think he could do a live stream from herd or from NetBSD? Which one do you think?
NetBSD.
NetBSD would be.
Honestly, NetBSD.
Yeah.
It is at least working system.
Yeah.
I wasn't gonna use OBS though for the GNU/herd one, and also I'd be a little bit concerned about the actual
codecs and the encoders. Are you trying to stick to free software? I mean, what distro? It's not one of the free ones, is it? Are you using one of the free distros because you're going to have problems with codecs and encoders and?
Yeah. Well, you could run Arch with herd or
Debian?
Probably even Debian with herd, but I don't recommend using herd in anything.
I mean, it'd be more of a kind of because you can video sort of thing. Not
I've made plenty of those. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with those. So.
Yeah. But unless you are certain it's gonna work, don't do it because your hair looks okay. You don't want to be bald.
Oh God. I'm gonna what? Am I gonna just grow a beard and my hair is just gonna?
I don't know if that bald joke was a shot at me or a shot at
No,
Jean-Michel.
It was shot at myself. It was shot at myself and me getting bolder and bolder. and I won't be shaving because I won't have hair at all.
Oh yeah, I'll never forget one time one of my nieces who was like 10 or 12 years old at the time was watching one of the Big Daddy Linux streams, and I was on it, and there's about 15 of us on camera, and she was like, "Why is everybody on this old and bald?" And I looked at all the grids on the screen and the Zoom chat, and she was right. Like 15 of 15 had no hair.
We're either old. If they're not old, they're bald anyway, and most of us have big beards.
It was the Linux meme right there that everybody's just old. Everybody's a neck beard. Right.
Didi, I really liked one video you did in last little while, the Linux Foundation one. Now that was a shit show.
Yeah. And you know what was funny about that is after I made that video, they changed the metadata on that PDF.
Yeah, I know.
But here's the thing. They released one the next day, a different one, and they didn't change that one. It still said Macintosh, Adobe InDesign.
You know that basically all this stuff is they could have farmed the creation of PDF to an outside company.
Sure,
first of all.
Sure they could. Even though they got billions of dollars, they needed to outsource the creation of a PDF.
Designers, you don't need designers every day. That's first of all.
Yeah.
Second of all, we should remember that Adobe is the standard
right?
Design. So that, and third of all, I believe you mentioned Jim Zemlin and using
he's
Mac on one of the on presentation somewhere. We should also know that most of the presentations, most the stuff they do they just rent laptops. Actually, that's what they do. They go to a place where they rent laptops. Mm-hmm. You pay, I don't know, few like $1,000 for a weekend or for a week. While you rent it, you plop it down and that's it. You do not change anything unless you need to. And easiest for those are probably Macs, because even if you get a Windows laptop, do you want to install on a rented system Linux?
Yeah. Well, Jim Zemlin's been spotted with Macs and iPad. Like he's been spotted presenting on Apple products. He's admitted that he has Apple like iPhones and stuff, and that he loves the Apple ecosystem.
As far as I know, Linus used Apple MacBooks.
Yeah, but he installed Linux on those. He's not running Mac OS.
Yeah.
Jim Zemlin's running the Mac OS. He's running.
Well, in reality, only people I hear that are this crazy to think they can enforce what system they must use are Linux users.
Right.
Because if you look at anything from Google employees, not all of them run Chromebooks or even Android phones.
Yeah, but they don't have to.
Microsoft.
They don't have to. But the Linux Foundation is all about the Linux kernel. It's different them compared to Canonical or Red Hat or people like that.
If you look at Microsoft and their presentation, their stuff on Microsoft Build Conference, where it's also about Windows, about a whole set of presentations about Windows. Most of the presentations I watched were on Mac OS. And a couple of them were even on Linux.
Yeah, but Microsoft makes software that runs on Mac and Linux. It's a different. It's different. The Linux Foundation should not be using Mac.
Linux Foundation makes, or one of their sub foundations makes software for Windows as well.
Let me put it this way: when Richard Stallman was running the Free Software Foundation, would he be caught dead using Adobe software?
No,
No. Even if it's the standard, he would never do that.
Yeah, he kind of went to the extremes. He wouldn't run like a proprietary BIOS code even.
Well, that's a bad example. You're right. He takes things a little further than most.
Yeah, he takes it to the extreme.
Yeah. And I do want to thank, hold on just a second. I want to thank Michael in the YouTube chat for that super chat. And he had a comment, linuxmint.com, guys.
Don't mention that distribution. That distribution is bad.
No, Linux Mint is not a bad distribution. It's very similar to the one you're running. You just mentioned Ubuntu Mate. Linux Mint has a great Mate edition.
Yeah. One problem. They disable
I already know where you're going with it.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
I don't like that at all.
I don't mind them not having it shipped, but yeah.
Okay, don't ship them, but don't actively disable them.
Yeah, but they're probably I bet the Mint guys and Canonical are going to work something out, and
no.
I bet they will.
Clem, the guy who runs Linux Mint, actively refuses to meet up with them, as far as I know.
Well, you'll be surprised.
He actively refuses. They have been for a couple of times. They wanted to talk to him, and notice either he might send something or no response. That's what I heard. So yeah,
it's kind of like Ubuntu and Debian. A lot of people think there's a grief between those two distributions, but a lot of Debian maintainers are also Ubuntu maintainers and vice versa.
Well,
like they'll work on both.
Well, I know of people who are Debian maintainers nowadays. Yeah. I know that because of Ubuntu Mate, but yeah. Well, even I maintain, or I supposed to maintain, a few packages for the Debian experimental stuff on their system, because
if you get it upstream, it comes down to you, right? Yeah.
They're actually if you look at their main repository for package building stuff, the salsa thing, you will see on some of the packages for Ubuntu Mate and the experimental branch, you will see my name there, because I am trying to get it all working for the latest versions that are being in the upstream repositories of Mate desktop.
Well, you know what? If I don't run desktop environments, but if I had to say who makes the best Mate desktop, I would say Ubuntu Mate probably edges out Linux Mint, but when it comes to XFCE, it's not even close. Xubuntu, I don't want to trash Xubuntu, but it's not the greatest XFCE experience, but Linux Mint XFCE is very nice.
Yeah.
That's the one I gave to my friend, elderly woman, to use. That's what she's using. That seems to be the distro that people give to their friends to install on it.
No, she was a Windows user, and she's comfortable with XFCE.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember it having kind of a weird multi-monitor support. I don't know if that got fixed since last time I used it.
You talking about XFCE, the desktop environment, or Linux Mint as a whole?
XFCE.
Yeah.
It might have been an issue.
They're a bit problematic to use. Nowadays, I actually do. If someone asks me what Linux distro to use, I say Ubuntu Mate. That's because they will come back with me with problems, and I can farm that problem solving to someone like Ubuntu Mate QA team.
Well, Big Pod has turned into an Ubuntu Mate fanboy.
Yeah, I have always been, but yeah.
I mean, I put Debian Mate on like the computers I sell, just because it handles a lot of things. I'm sure no one wants like a computer coming with some custom scripts that random key bindings and things like that. So I imagine it isn't too different. Is it? Am I wrong?
You're talking about doing the stock XFCE like Debian does, or versus?
Yeah, I just use the Debian Mate.
You're doing Mate. Okay. I've
The
never.
greatest Mate is Ubuntu Mate.
I was about to say I've never actually done a vanilla installation of Mate on anything like Arch or Debian. I don't know what it looks like out of the box.
Done it.
Yeah.
It's basically what GNOME 2 looked like, in a tiny bit better than what GNOME 2 looked like out of the box. Basically, not that good.
Yeah, because I know what the Ubuntu Mate guys and what the Linux Mint guys, they heavily customize it, so I don't know what it originally looked like. So,
I liked GNOME 2.
Really?
I didn't. I hated that thing.
I didn't care for
I had
it.
to use it at school, and I just went, why? Yeah, okay, at the time I didn't know Linux at all, so that was a bit of a problem, but yeah. I knew a tiny bit.
No, a matter of fact,
So,
GNOME 2
at the time was still the best one, and I used just this much.
GNOME 2 being the default on Linux, most Linux distros when I switched to Linux, was the reason that I discovered OpenBox. Like, that's how bad GNOME was. It drove me to window managers.
Well, we used CentOS, so that was a great experience.
Oh.
But actually, before we mentioned OBS, I remembered the best way to install OBS is with Snap, because it has everything you want to in there already. Like I don't know how many extensions and all that. It's already installed.
Yeah, but there's so many dependencies on OBS. Wouldn't that Snap be huge?
It is quite big, but well, you get full support for everything. I mean, I can actually go check.
Yeah, that would be weird because FFmpeg. I mean, you have it installed on your system anyway, and then you have it installed in the Snap just for OBS. I mean, I'm not one of those people that's counting disk space. You know, I don't mind Snaps being a little bigger, holding the dependencies, but for OBS, that'd be a big Snap.
Let's see what it does. Maybe it's not that big. Let's see.
Hi guys, I'm sorry I have visitor coming at home for dinner, so I will have to leave the chat.
All right. Well, thanks for hanging out.
So, I wish you a nice evening, nice day, and see you next time.
All right. Appreciate that.
Bye.
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 Take care.
Okay.
So I've been working on New Shell for about 4 days, and I've got a few things. It's not ready for prime time, but they have a release every 3 weeks. So the release now is .19, and they've got a really nice ls command formatted output. And what I've done is I've customized it and put some switches in so it's like a Linux format. And I have it up on GitLab. And I'm looking, it's a command line app. I'm looking for volunteers to download and give it a try. I've tried it on Manjaro, Alacrity, Debian 10, and Ubuntu 2004, so it should work everywhere. But I don't know if my website's set up properly, and I don't know what it would be like in the real world. So I don't know if anyone would like to give it a try. I can give you the link, and if sometime in the future you want to try it.
Yeah, pass along the link. I actually don't have the new shell installed on my machine at the moment since reinstalled.
You don't need it. You don't need it. It's installed in the package you download.
Okay.
It's self-contained. And let me get the link for you. Should I read it out, or is it someplace I can paste?
Well, you can paste it in the Jitsi chat, and then I can paste it in the YouTube chat for everybody to grab.
So where's that? Where do I?
Lower right corner, you will see chat, open, close chat button. Is basically a chat button.
What is it packaged for? Is it just like a snap file, or?
It's an app image, but it's called LL. It's just LS is taken, so it's just called LL. I don't see anything on the bottom right.
Bottom left. Bottom left.
Bottom left. Bottom left.
Bottom left. The other right one.
Yeah.
Open close chat.
Yeah. Click that. Now we have
Okay.
in the left corner, left side, you'll have a chat
Okay.
chat
So I'll
box.
paste the link here and hit enter.
And there
There's
it
the
is.
link.
Okay, let me see if I can paste that in the YouTube chat for everybody.
I just got the size of the OBS snap. It's the file OBS Studio snap file is about 200 megs.
Oh,
Bit
that's
less.
not too bad. I was expecting it to be over a gig. That's not bad. Oh.
Probably the whole size is a bit bigger
Mm-hmm.
when it's extracted, but yeah, let me see.
Oh, that's the compressed size. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so hopefully it doesn't require a bunch of dependencies. I'm on like I have like some flash drives I use for just messing around or writing like core boot ROMs and things.
Mm-hmm.
And this one, I think it's like an 8 or 16 gigabyte one. So it's currently what I'm running the system on.
Yeah, I'm taking a look at the GitLab page here for his app image. Yeah, so it lists files and folders the way it does in the new shell format, kind of like the PowerShell kind of format. But you don't actually have to use new shell. It's all in the app image. Okay, that might be neat. I'm gonna look at that later.
Yeah, and it's a little. It can be new shell can be verbose. This uses command line switches similar to the ls command -f for files, -d for directories,
Mm-hmm.
-s space field name for sorting, things like that. So, and it's the output is quite well presented on that. So it's worth a look for some people, I think.
Yeah, I will definitely take a look at it. I did find when I took a look at new shell, I thought it was really interesting. I mean, I don't mind the kind of tabled format that everything has in it. I thought it was pretty cool.
It's not ready for prime time. They don't have a scripting language and they don't have variables yet, but they're working on it. And they do have major changes every release on it. This one they colorize the columns, so you can have so it's easier to read on it. So it's kind of good. I like it. It's not a replacement for Bash, but it's a nice complement to it.
Well, I just reinstalled the new shell just so I'd have it, just to remember what it looks like. Yeah. I gotta admit, that is a sexy LS. You guys have never tried out new shell, the way it does the ls command is really nice.
And you can select on, say, you can give me one where the size is greater than 10 KB,
right? And
you actually put the KB in there, or MB for megabytes on it. So it's a little more user friendly than the standard ls command as well.
Oh God, it's the Mediafire link.
Is that website still up? Mediafire? I forgot about that one.
Yeah, that's the one I've been using, I think.
Huh.
So I just uploaded it yesterday, actually, or 2 days ago. So I've also been trying, looking for a replacement for Bash, and I've been looking at IPython, and I'm switching from Bash to IPython on it already.
Okay.
But it's not for everybody. You have to highly customize it. I spent about 3 days looking through the configuration files and figuring out how things work and how to set them up. But once it's done, it's pretty good. You can do a lot. You script with Python instead of Bash on it, and
you're talking about within the new shell. You're just giving it Python commands.
No, I'm not talking about new shell. I'm talking about IPython.
Oh, okay.
Different topic. IPython.
Oh, okay.
But so your command language is now Python instead of Bash.
Have you tried the
Python shell?
Have you tried the
Sorry,
conch
what
shell?
if you're just using the shell commands, the bash commands in IPython? Do you just use the exclamation mark and type the bash command? Or
That's
can
it.
you interface it with Python to, for example, parse the arguments?
And you can set it up so that anything in your path, you don't need to use the exclamation part. You can just use it like it will find it normally, but you have to set that up. And you can download py simple GUI, and you can do an install. And you can cut and paste the GUI data entry box in about 20 lines of code. You couldn't do that with Bash or Fish or any of the other ones. You'd have this GUI built right into the language itself.
I went to test your app image
Yeah.
And well, I found out this USB stick has a 686 install of Debian.
That's cool.
So,
well, I've got new shell and IPython installed. Anybody else want to give me any other shells? Well, I've already got Fish and ZSH and Bash also on the system.
IPython.
Yeah. So.
I guess there's Dash, right?
Dash, yeah, it's not installed by default on Arch, so I'd have to add it. Conch, yeah, that's one I've played with before, and I don't think I have yet. That's another one if you're a Python guy.
But that's so old, and I think it's one person developed a university course or something and hasn't been used since. It's pretty basic and primitive.
Oh, it's not seeing any development anymore?
I don't think so.
Well, that is unfortunate because that one had a lot of potential. Okay. Well, I better not bloat up my system with too many shells. And all these alternative shells, I end up going back to Bash anyway. Every time I try a new one, I end up back in Bash. All right. But I will play with all of that. I mean, we'll definitely do some stuff with new shell and with IPython later. Just to play around. And this afternoon I got to watch some NFL, the start of the NFL season, which is great. Haven't watched sports since before COVID. So much was canceled until now. I got to watch my Saints start their season this afternoon.
Is that right? Where did they play?
They are playing in Tampa Bay. So Drew Brees and Tom Brady. I don't think they're going to have a live crowd. I could be wrong about that. So I don't know.
Probably not. I don't think any sport here has live crowd besides cycling.
Well,
but they really can't stop people from watching cycling since it's on the road.
Right. It's out in public. I mean, what are you going to do?
Yeah, but no sport that happens in stadiums hasn't had any crowd. I remember watching football, the soccer, the real football. They were playing Champions League, European Champions League. They were playing it. That was the finals. They're playing in Portugal, and there was no people there. So.
Well, it is interesting though.
Matches I've seen.
It does give you a little different perspective on things when you see some of these sports played without an audience. Like some of the UFC events that I've watched, you know, I've seen some UFC fights where they didn't have a crowd because of the pandemic, and those are interesting. You know, when you have this big UFC title fight and there's just like a handful of people in the arena. It's weird.
actually, in the Champions League, what they did, they basically played on the big speakers. I think it was the big speakers. So
add some noise.
They played the crowd noise.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, they played crowd noise because you could hear crowd, but there was no one there. Exactly. Every once in a while, a few people sat.
If you're gonna go that far, you might as well take it all the way and just like put a giant green screen up around the stadium area.
Well, you could you could do that on TV. I mean, they could add the effects. They could put a fake crowd on the TV, kind of like they draw the grids on the field and everything.
NHL playoffs, they have fake crowd noise on that. And there's no one in the stands on it. Yeah.
And I believe I watched something from NBA, and I don't think they have crowd as well.
No, they don't.
Well, what I watched was, I believe, it was Dallas Mavericks play because Luka Doncic, he's Slovenian, he's the best.
He's all right. He's the best. You must not watch a lot of NBA if he's the best in the league.
Wow.
Come on.
The best young player.
Yeah. He's good though. Yeah.
Or 22 or 21. So.
That
could actually be wrong. It could be younger.
He's a young guy. Yeah. I'm not sure his age, but yeah, he's still growing.
Right? I know he's younger than me. He's 21, so yeah. He's younger than me.
Well, we've got just a couple of minutes here before noon, so why don't we get everybody to give us a last word on our way out? Trip, you got anything you want to share with us? Something?
Not a whole lot at the moment.
No?
So, just, I guess, stay safe and have a good one.
All right. Well,
everybody.
Yeah, thanks for hanging out, guys. Make sure you check out Trip Code's channel for all the core boot content. All right, Murray, you want to give us a last word, sir?
Yeah, well, I'm glad to be back. It's good to see you again. I hope you get better soon on that.
Yeah.
And
appreciate that.
There's a nice YouTube video out for the Bates 4000 computer. It's about a 5-minute video. You might give that a shot. Bates 4000, and the guy's going into a big box store and purchasing it, and it's quite a good skit. On that, I'll leave you. Thanks, guys.
All right, thanks, Murray. All right, Marcin, are we there?
Yeah, I am. So thank you for hanging out today, and DT, I hope you will be okay after that hurricane. And personally, I'm from Europe, so the whole idea of hurricanes is terrifying for me because whenever there is a stronger wind, we get SMS alerts from the government that we should hide in homes. But you just, it's gonna pass.
All right, well, thanks for hanging out with us. All right, let's see. Caleb Devils, are you there? I don't know if he's spoken earlier or not. He may be. No, I don't think he has a working microphone.
I do.
Oh, you do? Okay.
I do. It just mine has a kill switch.
Oh, okay.
It's been off the whole time.
Would you like to give us a last word? Anything inspirational you want to say, or anything you want to share, or just tell the YouTube chat bye?
Really nothing else, but have a nice day.
All right. Short and to the point. I like that. Gabe, give us a last word, sir.
I'm trying to sleep, guys, so keep me up.
All right. Big Bud, send us out.
Thanks for having this. And I said you had an electricity outage during the time we should have had this, but my YouTube is doing great.
And I'm glad
Come watch my videos about Docker if you want to know about it. And see you in some time. When did you decide to make next one?
Well, the reason I'm really glad I decided to do this week the patrons chat, because there is another storm on the way, and it will probably hit this area Tuesday. So it's not going to be as bad, but that doesn't mean that I won't lose power or anything. So I don't know, but today was good. So we got this in. So we'll see. It's just now really the peak of the hurricane season too, which is kind of crazy because we've almost gone through the entire alphabet naming these storms. And we have till the end of November actually is the end of the hurricane season. So they're going to have to go back and start over on the alphabet here in a minute. So many storms, because there's like 4 of them spinning right now. All right. And on my last word, of course, is I want to thank all these guys for hanging out with me on camera. I want to thank all the patrons that couldn't be here as well. So I'm going to show some names on the screen here. These are all my patrons. I want to thank each and every one of these ladies and gentlemen for helping support my work. And other than that, let's all wave bye to the YouTube chat.